Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to today's event. I'm Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com, and I'm pleased to be hosting today's session all about Dynamics 365 lead generation and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Our speakers today are Jason Mills and Bill Kern from Power Objects, and I'll let them tell you a little more about themselves. But as we get started, I do want to just let you all know that we do encourage you to ask questions and make today's session interactive. You can look for the Q&A block you should see just to the right of the main presentation area. Feel free to enter questions in there at any point. I know we'll be looking for those at a few different points throughout today's session. So without any further delay, I am going to hand things off to Jason Mills to get us started.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Really appreciate it. And we want to thank MS Dynamics World as well for the invitation. So guys, I'm really excited to be presenting today. I want to introduce myself and kind of why that's relevant. Jason Mills, I've actually been doing, despite what I look like, been doing CRM for about 17 years. Was in the Dynamics field, left briefly for NetSuite, and then joined Salesforce. And the reason I'm back in the Microsoft channel, one of the reasons is specifically because Microsoft bought LinkedIn. So that topic has been very, very exciting to me. I'll also introduce Bill Kern. He's a solution architect from Power Objects. And together we cover the manufacturing and high-tech vertical for Power Objects. A little background of kind of who we are. All the things you need to know is that we're a Dynamics 365 firm covering service, support, education, and add-ons. Through our partnership, our parent company, HCL, we do deliver integrated solutions with Azure IoT and artificial intelligence and Adobe Marketing Cloud. Proud, and one of the reasons I joined is that we're the 2017 Worldwide Partner of the Year for Dynamics 365 Consulting and System Integration. And currently our blog is one of the most visited blogs in the world. So have a lot to offer you guys and ready to get started. We do have some upcoming events. I'd encourage you to visit powerobjects.com events. As you can see, we will be covering Dynamics 365 for finance and operations. We will be covering field service and a few items on business intelligence as well. So Dynamics 365, as you can see here, a lot of times when you think about Dynamics 365, I'd really encourage you to think about not only the modules and the workloads that's part of Dynamics 365, but on the left-hand side, you can see we also have LinkedIn and Office 365. And I think this is really one of the deal breakers of why Dynamics is such a powerful force in the market, is when you add Office 365 and LinkedIn, there's a lot of firepower that's going to be offered to your sales, your marketing, and now your HR teams as well. So we'll be covering three main topics. The first is Sales Navigator. This is primarily, if you're familiar with LinkedIn, what a lot of people think about when it comes to LinkedIn. It's a great social selling tool that allows reps to connect to buyers as well as management. So as your BDR teams or your account executive teams are doing their planning and their strategy, it's an incredible tool. Secondly, we'll be covering Campaign Manager. This is for your marketing team, and we'll be showing you how LinkedIn is now connected to Dynamics for marketing. Many of us, as you can imagine, why LinkedIn, see advertisements as you are profiling through LinkedIn. You'll see advertisements that are geared towards you, and what we'll show you is the back half of that. As you click on one of those advertisements, what happens on the back end. And third, which is really exciting, is talent solutions. So if you think about it, all this great data, all this great accounts and people in LinkedIn now, it's an incredible recruiting tool for your HR. You know, it's an ideal place for them to hunt for candidates, also to track information and activities as candidates travel through the interviewing and hiring process. So as we cover sales, marketing, and talent, we'll stop on each of those sections to see if there's any questions. So this is something really exciting. Here you have the Forster Wave. I know a lot of us in the Dynamics world were very excited, really showing Microsoft and kind of where its place is in the world. And as you can see here, this is why the LinkedIn announcement is so exciting. You know, yesterday's Salesforce automation was a sales management tool, but today's solutions focus on seller empowerment. So if you take Dynamics, you take LinkedIn, and you take Office 365, it's an incredible, incredible tool for our sellers there. Currently, if you go to AppSource, and I provided the link below, This is the Sales Navigator widget for Microsoft Dynamics. I'd encourage you to take a look at it. The setup is not difficult at all, and we'll kind of go through why it's so important. So if we look at the Sales Navigator profile widget, this is a screen, and my friend Bill will be giving a more accurate demo of kind of what it looks like. But what we're really coming down to is a single pane of glass. So here is a screenshot of people in Dynamics 365. And as you can see here, we looked up Satya Nadella, and there's a few things we're seeing on the screen. You know, the Sales Navigator for Dynamics was designed to create that seamless experience between Navigator and Dynamics. If you don't have this in place, you need to have two monitors, or people are hunting in CRM, not aware of the information taking place in LinkedIn, and vice versa. So Icebreakers, as you can see, is showing a person's highlights, activities, and more. It also allows you to identify commonalities between you and your prospects. So sometimes it could be a recent job move. Maybe there's a past company that they were at that was a client of yours, and now you can make an introduction. It could be an announcement that they've made. Maybe they've released a press release. Maybe they have an announcement of things that they're working on. But it's a really good icebreaker. It could be a hockey team or a soccer team that they follow. It's any advice given of how you can connect to that prospect individually and make a more personal relationship. And we know that can be difficult at times. Secondly, it's the idea of getting introduced. What we're seeing here is a shared connection that allows you to make an introduction to a person. So when I personally am in Dynamics 365 and I have Sales Navigator in place, as I'm viewing a certain person, I want to see, do I know someone in common? Another option could be TeamLink. TeamLink is a really powerful Sales Navigator add-on. What it allows me to do is, because Power Objects is part of HCL, as I jump into and look at a person, I can go across the 100,000 people as part of HCL and see if there are people that are part of HCL that know this person in general. So if I'm reaching out to someone, I can look through my mutual contacts. I can also look at my TeamLink contacts to see if there is someone similar as a way to do a connection. And finally, it's just related leads. And I'd really encourage you to look through related leads. This is what Bill will be demoing. But under related leads, as I'm looking for a person, related leads is going to show you who are people similar to them. It could be in the company with a similar title role. There are algorithms in place that if I'm looking for Jason, you will often find Bill. And thirdly, it could be, from an account perspective, maybe people with the same title at a different company. Top use cases for this, and I want to give some encouragement, is, really it allows your reps to prepare before calls and gain insight to the companies to know what's on top of mind for these people, and allows you to stay informed of your leads through the industry news. So there's a lot of people that you may not be connected to, but you can save as leads, and it will still update you to changes. Secondly, account widgets is very similar. Under the accounts here is that its account connections show the best LinkedIn connections for these companies. So as you're doing this planning session, if I'm targeting Microsoft, what this is going to show me are all the connections that I should be looking at and why. And I'll have different filters to look at titles, roles, individuals, things like that. Secondly, as I'm looking at the account widget, I can see the recommended leads showing the recommended potential for these companies. And third and finally, account news. This is something that's really important, is before I call on a customer, I want to be able to look at the account news and say, what's important to that company? Are they announcing earnings? Are they announcing an acquisition? Are they announcing in a press release that they are, chasing a certain company, or maybe doing a new product release? It becomes really important to show them, hey, I'm aware of your company, I'm aware of what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish. I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Bill, and we'll go ahead and dive into the product.
Okay, and I'm just changing control over for you, Bill. Oh, give me one more second.
All right. Thank you, Jason. So we want to take a look at inside our environment here of the LinkedIn connection with Dynamics 365. So I'm in my Dynamics 365 environment. You guys should be able to see a dashboard that I have specifically. And I'm going to go ahead and select a lead. I can go under my sales and go under my leads that I have there of bringing up various leads. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up Jason. I have Jason in here as a specific lead. He has some interest in our products, and we have some different information that we can gather about Jason, whether he reaches out via the web or via a web form or call-in or some other ways that we're getting our leads into our specific system. But as Jason talked about, really when you go ahead and you load the LinkedIn app for Dynamics 365, what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and put this widget on that lead. It will also put it under contacts and accounts so that you can gain that information not just for your leads, but if you want more information relative to your existing clients or different things like that, there's a lot of salespeople that we know that they have those existing clients and they're trying to really branch out and get more of a depth and breadth and filter in further into that client. But as we take a look at Jason here as our lead and some of the things that he touched upon that we can take a look at a little bit further is relative to before I call Jason and make it more of a warm type of connection is those icebreakers. So what has Jason been really talking about through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through some of those other connections, other news and information? He's recently shared an article relative to Dynamics 365, LinkedIn, Power BI, some of those things. That's really what's important to him that we can connect in and talk about, or how we recently went to the UG Summit and some other things that are available for me in understanding those icebreakers and what I can talk with him about. We can also say, okay, if I don't know him directly, how can I go ahead and get introduced? How is there other people that I know with Blaze here that I can get an introduction to him and connect a little bit further? As well as are there other related leads? So other people within the organization that I can connect with. And once again, this is really key as you have those setups. If there's certain titles, certain areas as you're connecting with those leads or even those accounts, those customers and different things of people that are important to connect with. If I'm interested in talking to Jason's boss, Peter, or other people, I can have those related leads and then I can go ahead and save those leads. When I go ahead and save the lead, what happens is that lead gets connected right now in Sales Navigator from the LinkedIn side. But there is a syncing to be able to bring that lead back into Dynamics 365 so we can have that information and have that in there as well. So really powerful, as you can see, as I go through the different areas that Jason covered relative to icebreakers, getting introduced, and some of those related leads that I can take a look at. Similarly, Jason talked about not just understanding him as an individual and some connected there, but also where he works, Power Objects as an overall organization. So understanding Power Objects as an overall organization, being understanding on their size, the locations, different things that are there. Once again, recommended leads from the account, and now I can see, hey, I understand in my setup, Jason's connected to a CIO that I might want to connect with or other individuals there, as well as those connections that he talked about in understanding who are some connections that I have or even my fellow employees at HCL or other ways through that team link connections and understanding there and being able to scroll through and take a look at who do others know, not just my first degree connections, but as well as some second degree connections that I have. So being able to have all of those that are available and simply be able to click through and view and easily take a look at and strategize is who I want to connect with so I can connect with the main lead that I have. And then also, what is the news relative to the organization as a whole? Power Objects, what have they been doing from technology challenges and housing, how that's been big with one of our branch offices overseas, or CRM for travel and hospitality, really talking about a lot of different things and what's important at the specific organization. So really getting a better look and feel and understanding and how this is part of a lead record right within Dynamics 365, and how when you load that app, you're being able to bring forth the app itself. It will put these what we call widgets views on the lead form. Obviously, with the power of Dynamics 365 and the configurability, you can move up. If you want to move these up within the lead form or wherever you want to place them, you have that capability to do so. But as Jason emphasized and talked about, in being able to not have to have a couple of different screens open or different things, it's brought forth in this one particular screen for the salesperson or for that representative at your organization to be able to get all of this powerful information from LinkedIn while they're working inside Dynamics 365. So Jason, I'm going to turn it back over to you, or I think together we wanted to see if there were any questions relative to the sales area.
Okay, so there is a question that's come in. So before I pass control back, it's just asking, what's the cost of Sales Navigator? Is it licensing based on users logged in, for example, or do you need to license everybody?
Yeah, there are SKUs available for Dynamics 365 and LinkedIn. They do change frequently. LinkedIn is a relatively new purchase by Microsoft, but it is the LinkedIn licenses are separate from Dynamics 365. So you may have 1,000 Dynamics 365 users and maybe only 100 LinkedIn users. I know that the cost is roughly $50 to $75 a month. I do think that changes, and I do think there are promotions available as the two companies start merging.
Okay, great. Thanks for the question. And Jason, I will pass control back over to you.
Great. Great. So continuing, what's still available is that what the current integration looks like, and what at first looked, it seemed a little bit backwards, but I kind of want to explain why. As you can
Jason,
see,
you need to share your screen.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Bill. Is that better?
There we go. We got it.
Excellent.
Thanks.
So what's currently in the market is the Dynamics 365 to LinkedIn, which is not the other way around. But what we're talking about here is currently Dynamics accounts and contacts can get synchronized to LinkedIn as saved leads and accounts. So if you think about it, anyone that's currently in Dynamics, you can push out to LinkedIn. As you can see on the screen for Sophie, Leo, and John, it will mark in a little record, it will say in CRM, knowing that these two people are linked. And what that's going to allow you to do in Dynamics is get synchronized on suggested leads themselves. So as you can see on our Dynamics 365 graphic below, any activities and accounts, contacts, or leads can be pushed into Sales Navigator so that you can save them as accounts, leads, or suggested leads into Sales Navigator. Anyone in Sales Navigator will get a Dynamics 365 badge so that you know that they're synchronized. And the reality is because the information in LinkedIn is so valuable, what they don't want you to do is just import all the available, accounts and leads into LinkedIn, like a one-time import, and then not have that relationship together with LinkedIn, which is why they're doing that. What's also available, and this is what I'm excited about, is that InMails and regular messages in LinkedIn can now be synced to the record. If any of you are like account executives like myself, so often you'll be at CRM and you'll be sending emails, and then you have to switch to Sales Navigator and you'll start sending InMails, and you forget what InMails you sent, when they were sent. You forget to follow up with them. So the beauty of LinkedIn and Dynamics together is that all the InMails will be in your CRM, and also team members who are on your team can also see those InMails as well. So what's happening is that in CRM, if Bill and I are on the same team, Bill will be able to see all the InMails that Jason is sending out. Also, what will be happening is embedded InMails, and what will that simply mean is instead of having to go to Sales Navigator within CRM itself, I'll be able to push out InMails through LinkedIn, and those InMails will be tracked so that everyone can see them as well. And then this is actually, just a caution, this is in a future release. This is not current release, but this should be released very shortly. Two other things we wanted to, two other items that are kind of in the works right now is the idea of relationship analytics, and this is pretty exciting. What's happening is you can look here at an opportunity, and what this is pulling in is all this valuable LinkedIn data showing you how you're scoring from Sales Navigator and Point Drive. So what will happen is if I click my screen here, you can see a change has been made, is that an InMail basically was sent out, and the charts and graphs are moving, saying how healthy is this relationship. When is the last time we touched them, either through Outlook or through LinkedIn? So this is where it starts getting really exciting, is that now as a sales manager or as an account executive, this is kind of doing some analytics on what is my relationship like. How healthy is this relationship? Secondly, if any of you use Point Drive basically is a web page designed in LinkedIn where you can store assets that are personalized to a customer. So if I am targeting Power Objects, I would build a Point Drive around, who is Jason, videos, what we're doing, and as I send out my Point Drives, I can see who's clicking on it, how long they viewed it, what's the last time they viewed it, information like that. What we don't have now, but it's coming down the pipeline, is that we can now capture Point Drive view events within relationship analytics as well. So again, currently in LinkedIn, I will be notified by Outlook that someone is viewing my Point Drive, or I can log into LinkedIn and see that Bill Kern is viewing my Point Drive. Very shortly with this new integration, as you're in Dynamics 365, the fact that they viewed your Point Drive will be acknowledged and recorded in the system itself. So we can see here that this is new information that Bill just opened up or just viewed my Point Drive. So I want to pause here on sales. I want to make sure we covered all the information correctly. We did talk about the Sales Navigator widget. So you install that from AppSource, and you can immediately put that in effect for accounts and leads. We did talk about the Dynamics LinkedIn sync and how Dynamics can push information out to LinkedIn to synchronize that. And thirdly, we talked about Dynamics write back of activity and how information like relationship insights and Point Drive notifications will soon be part of that integration as well. Jason, we want to stop to see if there's any questions on sales before we move on.
Yeah, so there's a question here asking if I want to save an account as a lead that is then shown as a lead saved for all my Sales Navigator users. I'm trying to phrase this right, but rather than having a quick save account, is there a way to just save a lead?
Yeah, so accounts and leads are different. Accounts are companies, leads are people. So it's a great question. But so within Power Objects itself would be the account, and I'm tracking the entire account. Leads would be Jason Mills and Bill Kern. So they are two separate instances. They have a relationship, but you have to save them mutually exclusive. I could save Jason and Bill as a lead and not Power Objects, or vice versa.
Okay, and that's our only question for now.
Great. So a little coaching here, and this is, I think, going to be very valuable for everyone on the call. Buying a Sales Navigator license is great. What I'd really encourage you to do is teach your users how to use Sales Navigator. What we're finding with a lot of our clients is they'll make a purchase of Sales Navigator, but if you don't do any training on how to identify icebreakers, if you don't do any training of how to really leverage shared connections or team link, you're not getting the value. The real beauty of what we're offering here is instead of having those two screens together, because they're on that single pane of glass, it's a beautiful thing. But my encouragement for all the administrators out there is invest in a few hours of training of how it's prospecting 101, but how you use Sales Navigator. You know, what does an icebreaker mean? How do you leverage Team Link? How do you leverage account news? I'd really encourage you once you make that purchase, there's the change management aspect of really getting your team comfortable with having this together. Secondly, we're going to talk about marketing and the connected LinkedIn marketing solutions. So if anyone on the webinar is familiar with Google AdWords, it's a very similar concept, but we want to talk about LinkedIn. When you have a LinkedIn campaign, and this is completely separate from Dynamics, these are the stages that you'll be going through before you even touch Dynamics. So again, there's some change management, there's a learning curve involved of with LinkedIn, and why we're so excited about the purchase is LinkedIn is the ultimate database of prospects. When you're doing Google AdWords, you're doing keywords, you're doing names, you're doing locations. It's not geo-targeted like LinkedIn would be. So what we're saying here with LinkedIn is that LinkedIn, you have the ability to choose your content. So it could be a webinar, it could be a press release, it could be a white paper. And then the beauty of it in phase 2 is then you can target your audience. So you now have 500 million people in this database that you can now segment of who is your target: location, company, industry, title, skills. And you have this rich pool of contacts that you can be reaching out to. And very similar to Google AdWords with LinkedIn, you can set your bid on campaign budget and cost per click. You then launch your campaign, you measure results, and you optimize your impact. So that has nothing to do with Dynamics, but again, a little coaching here would be make sure you're familiar with how LinkedIn marketing works. But the beauty of LinkedIn and that having that social platform is it's an enclosed environment. So if you wanted to get in front of Power Objects and you wanted to build a white paper or webinar targeting us, you now have the ability to do that. So with lead generation forms, the Dynamics LinkedIn connector allows you to automatically sync leads captured on LinkedIn with your Dynamics 365 organization so that your sales and marketing teams can develop and nurture them. So we see here is a form, right? The support for multiple LinkedIn accounts basically is you set up your organization to access and bring leads from campaigns, which you can do by multiple employees using different LinkedIn member profiles. You then have the ability to customize lead creation and matching. And all that means is configuring how lead submissions are captured on LinkedIn and associated with and updated on Microsoft Dynamics 365. So here is a lead generation form. Some of you may have seen this. Some of you may be targeted right now. But you can see here is that Microsoft has a sponsored page. They have in this case, they have a page where they're asking you to fill out your information. And unlike a web form, this is something that they really can't fake. The beauty of having this LinkedIn form is that Jason will always be Jason to LinkedIn. So I can't put in any other information besides what my LinkedIn record could be. So if a prospect sees an ad and expresses interest, it pulls them into your funnel. So here we have the lead forms. As you can see, the back of the house campaign manager. We have all the lead forms that we have active, the dates created, and you can also see here the number of leads that are generated. So prospect submission there is captured as a lead. This is on AppSource. This is where the AppSource where you'd go to get this. This is the Dynamics 365 connector for LinkedIn lead gen forms. And what we're saying here is that this is it's configurable matching strategy to match submission with existing leads. So it's a fancy way of saying it's as you're collecting leads, what is going to be your policy for bringing them into LinkedIn. So here we have a one-time authorization to sync data from LinkedIn. So you can see here first name, last name, email, lead source, and how that's working. So the lead generation will basically give your target audience the right assets or landing pages and then forward them to marketing or sales to be nurtured. Here it's just showing once it's in 365, you have your standard marketing reports and dashboards of how your campaigns are working. And then finally, this is going back to sales, but once you have a lead in, again, this is the marketing lead, but this is the challenge that LinkedIn has always had is that with an ad campaign or with a sales campaign, how do we track people? Once this is pulled into Dynamics 365, this is now a Dynamics 365 record, and your marketing and or sales team can then go back to our sales presentation to email, to send emails, to follow up by phone, and tracking that rich follow-up activity. Great. So for marketing, do we have any questions? What we covered is kind of LinkedIn, the lead gen forms, how that works. We covered where you got the connector. We covered syncing leads to Dynamics, and then finally just synergies with Sales Navigator and putting that into the normal sales process. Are there any questions on marketing before we move to talent?
So there's a question. Are Lead Builder, Amplified Search, and Team Link part of Sales Navigator when you buy it?
They are not. They're completely separate. That's a great question. Sales Navigator is basically getting access to, you're basically part of the community for Sales Navigator. Marketing is completely separate. Now, often marketing people will have Navigator licenses as they're building prospects, but think of marketing as a two-step process. Marketing is creating the assets, building out some sort of prospect campaign, meaning is it a white paper, is it a webinar, bidding on a campaign budget, and then you're done. So basically you can have multiple marketing campaigns taking effect. What's different now is if you do get a lead generated from your marketing efforts, you can now pull them into Dynamics. So as a marketing person, you don't need a Sales Navigator license, to my knowledge, but it's the connection between marketing and generating your LinkedIn campaigns and then pulling them to LinkedIn to then be followed up by a BDR team or by salespeople in Dynamics.
Okay, no other questions right now.
Great. Great, so the third aspect is talent, and again, if you think about the power of LinkedIn, what LinkedIn has done is have this 500 million member database of people that now HR can target for HR purposes. So what happens is Dynamics 365, it basically enables you to build personalized experiences along the talent, along all talent touch points, so starting even before they're hired. So if you look at this screen here, what we're doing again, combining Dynamics with LinkedIn, is it's the ability to track and onboard customers. It's the ability is for an employee and manager to kind of thrive, perform and develop. And then finally, managers and candidates can self-service. And then for human resources, it's basically allowing them to do their job within Dynamics 365. So right now there's, talent is really not easy to find. It's not uncommon for unqualified candidates to really just not be the right people you're looking for. So within LinkedIn, HR usually doesn't have the ability to really understand like who is out there and how we make that happen, if that makes sense. So with Dynamics 365, you basically have the ability to transform that hiring experience to shorten the time to fill roles and reduce your cost to hire, and you create a collaborative experience across candidates, recruiters, and hiring managers. So when you connect to LinkedIn Talent Solutions, you can find and source top candidates. It's very similar to marketing. So if you can imagine right now as an HR person, you would create a job posting, and then you also have the ability to look through and find the right people to push to that job posting. So you may look them up, and some of us are reached out on LinkedIn all the time, but you'll have a sales manager reach out to you and say, hey, or excuse me, an HR person reach out to you and say, hey, you have this experience. We'd like for you to interview with our company. So you can drive attendance to your job post through advertising or using InMails to talent, and then it's walking them through that process. So I'll show you a screenshot here. So this is a Microsoft job posting. You can see here the title is clearly outlined, where they're located, a job description, and then what the person has the ability to do. And again, this is more inbound marketing. So as I'm in LinkedIn, as I'm scrolling through, I can see through the jobs, Microsoft has put this job posting together, and if I want, I have the ability to apply with LinkedIn. The advantage of that is as I apply into LinkedIn, all that rich LinkedIn information gets pushed into my, as a HR person, my queue. So what will happen is that as I am an HR person, I can see the people that are connecting on my job posting, and I can find out all that information about them. And because it's Dynamics 365, think about it, I now have the ability to track emails between me and the candidate. I have the ability to track phone calls or InMails between the candidate. And because we're using Dynamics 365, I also have the ability to store documents. So it could be a resume. It could be any form that I have is now stored within that same record. One thing I didn't show, and I apologize, is that during this, we also have a collaboration tool with HR for Talent that will allow us to use forms back and forth to schedule time. And what I mean by that is if Cameron has applied to my job through LinkedIn, I can push out a form and keep him in the loop of where he is in the progress. So Cameron will get an email saying, thank you for registering, thank you for becoming a candidate. He then can log in to have an individualized portal showing where he is in the hiring process. So am I at a first stage? Am I at a second stage? Am I at a third stage? And as you know, if there's any HR people, that's kind of a frustrating experience. What a lot of candidates complain about is where am I in the process? What is the next step? And an HR person may be dealing with 50, 20, 50, 100 people and having them managing all those expectations across all those candidates. With HR for Talent, all that goes away. So the HR person basically can update a form and all those candidates at the same time can see where they are in the process. And the HR person can then move them on. If I'm an HR person and I want them to be interviewed by a sales manager, I have the ability to share that same LinkedIn information with the sales manager and continually update both the sales manager and the candidate where they are in that hiring process, if that makes sense. So with this, and we pulled up Marco, who's with Power Objects. You can see here Marco's application ID is he's already submitted an application. He's currently in the screening process, right? He has not been interviewed yet. And then once the interview light goes on, then we have the offer. So both Marco and the candidate can see this. You can see here on the bottom here, it says, hi, Marco. One or more tasks have been added to your to-do list. So what this is saying here is this is the HR person pushing back to Marco, saying that there's the task that we need you to complete, either doing the interview process or the onboarding process. So you're now using Dynamics to manage the whole recruiting, onboarding, and professional activities of that candidate. Great. So this is our final slide. Just as a recap, we covered the Dynamics 365 and LinkedIn integration. So currently there is Sales Navigator, which is a recap, is dealing with salespeople and sales activity and pulling in that one pane of glass for your salespeople. Secondly is the Campaign Manager, and of how marketing people, as they create LinkedIn marketing campaigns, can now pull that information directly into Dynamics 365 to be worked by your sales team or your BDR team. And finally, with talent solutions, what we are showing is very similar to marketing, is that your HR people can create those job posts, and then as people apply to those job posts, they now can be tracked very similar to a lead, but your candidates can be walked through that whole nurture process of where they are. Is it an interview? Is it an offer? And then similarly have that collaboration between candidates, HR people, and sales managers as they're moving through the talent process. Great. So we can be on the line. I'm not sure, Jason, if there's any other questions, but we're happy to answer them. Feel free to reach out to Bill or myself directly. I use Sales Navigator pretty extensively. I have an SSI score usually of 85 to 86, if you know what that means. But really, really excited about what Microsoft is doing with LinkedIn, and we look forward to more and more integration touch points to come.
All right, thank you, Jason. And there are a few more questions that have come in. I would ask if you have a question, please do enter it into the Q&A block, not the chat. It'll just make it easier for us to make sure we get to all of them. So let me start with a couple of the really talent focused, then maybe we'll circle back on some remaining Sales Navigator or sales focused questions. So someone wants to know are the talent capabilities meant to compete against or complement a human resources management system?
I would say complement. Where HR is today is it's not going to deal a lot with, let's say, let me rephrase that. What an HCM system is going to do is a lot of the back of the house functions that Dynamics for Talent cannot do. So if you're doing yearly reviews, if you're doing HR violations, if you're doing a lot of that really HR-centric back of the house stuff, what HR Talent is going to do is complement that more of that hiring process. And again, it's synchronizing to LinkedIn. I think that's kind of the huge difference, is because we have the integration to LinkedIn. Imagine now you have 500 million plus candidates available for you. So I definitely think they would complement each other. There are some overlaps. I'm sure that HR for Talent could replace maybe some of the HCM systems and the way they're doing it, but this currently is solely designed for LinkedIn right now.
There's another question asking about integration of talent with Dynamics 365. I think the question is Dynamics 365 finance and operations in particular here.
Yeah, right now my understanding is HR for Talent. Dynamics 365 is CRM plus ERP, and currently my understanding for HR for Talent is it's designed for CRM. And the reason being is, remember, is as candidates are applying, you're now turning them into a lead or a candidate lead, for a lack of a better term. So now that Jason Mills is in your system, you have the ability to track activities such as phone calls, InMails, and emails to that candidate.
All right. Let me just move back to some other.
Let me jump into a little bit more detail. So some of us are on Dynamics CRM or Dynamics AX currently. If you're on that, this is designed for Dynamics CRM. So if you're in Dynamics 365, meaning you have the licenses, it's something you can turn on very easily. So hopefully that makes it more clear.
Okay, I want to go back to that question about accounts and making them available to Sales Navigator. So I have a rephrased sort of version of that question from earlier. So let's say Power Objects is an account, and I want all my Sales Navigator users to have that saved as an account. At the moment, if I had 1,000 users, each of them would have to individually save Power Objects as an account. Is that your understanding of it, and do you see any way to improve that process?
That's correct. That is my understanding. Right now, LinkedIn is still very individualized. So my LinkedIn Sales Navigator experience is different than Bill's Sales Navigator experience. I will do some research on that and get back to you, though, because I understand where you're going. Is if you're doing account planning, it would be great where from the top down, Jason and Bill can target this, because we're both on our manufacturing high-tech vertical team. I could see the advantage of having us both syncing up maybe the accounts and the accounts and leads that we're both targeting. So that's a great question. Let me see. I'll take a look at the roadmap and see if that's part of a future release.
All right, great. And at present, if a Sales Navigator user leaves the company and all his leads leave with him, there's no seat transfer. Do you see any workaround for this?
Another great question. I'll have to think about that. The reason is LinkedIn itself, and this is what LinkedIn is finding, is a lot of people are registering as individuals and not companies. So for Power Objects as a company, we've been asked to register as a company. So I have my HCL-Power Objects link, and that way any point drives are sent to my Outlook and not my personal email. If a individual leaves the company, the leads, technically, anything that's in Dynamics 365 won't be taken away. So they are two separate systems in the fact that they will push back and forth to each other. But right now, anything in Dynamics, if someone leaves with their LinkedIn Sales Navigator license, it won't take away anything from Dynamics 365, if that answers your question.
All right, great. When will the InMail integration be released? Do you have any more specific
I'm hoping
idea?
today. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm really hoping today. I've been asking and asking and asking. We'll definitely get I'm definitely happy to reply to that. I think that they're still working on it. I think what we're finding is the integrations are going to be there. They're trying to be very careful with the roadmap. And for my reasoning is that what they don't want is people, LinkedIn has done such a phenomenal job putting all this information together. I think what LinkedIn wants to be careful of is not people abandoning LinkedIn and just staying in CRM. Because right now, if you're just in CRM, LinkedIn can't send you advertising, and LinkedIn can't recruit you for HR. So I think the beauty of syncing the information is going to be great, but I don't think there'll be a point where the companies themselves will merge all that information. It's just not a viable business model for LinkedIn. So I think with the emails, they're still trying to be careful of the InMail, of how that works, because what they want is making sure that you are at LinkedIn some of the time and that you're not abandoning their ability to advertise or reach out to you from an HR purpose, if that makes sense. So it's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think currently it's not a technology issue. I think it's more of a revenue issue of how the two companies will work forward together.
Okay, someone asks, well, they say they're hosted online and storage is limited for them. Will Sales Navigator take up a lot of space?
Bill, I don't think there's any size issues, are there?
No, there isn't any size issues because when you're saving leads in Sales Navigator on LinkedIn, that's really on the LinkedIn side. That's their space or what they have. Your space is really relative to really how many leads are you importing or what are you bringing over into Dynamics 365, and you're just bringing over some information, name, address, those types of things. as compared to large photos, documents, or things that would take up more space. So depending on how many leads you're bringing in and those types of things, you're going to manage space just like you would if you didn't have it, if you're adding new leads, adding new accounts, and those ideas. So my response to that is the space would be minimal or your normal usage of space as you're using Dynamics 365.
All right, someone would like to know whether you can foresee that talent could be integrated with other international HCM or HRMS systems.
Absolutely. Again, that's a roadmap question that I'm happy to follow up with you on. I think, Microsoft, I believe a year or two ago, announced a strategic partnership with Workday. So I don't think that they're designing it to be an overall end-all of HCM. I think it's more of what they understood with Dynamics is we have LinkedIn. How do we leverage that relationship? Because LinkedIn is powerful for sales, marketing, and HR. I mean, I think they even their HR revenue is close to, if not more than sales. So I think it was a way for Microsoft to leverage what Dynamics does best, which is individuals and tracking activity. I will double check. I'm not aware of any integrations that I'm just not aware of them at this time, but I'm happy to follow up with them.
So someone would like to know what happens if a candidate applies for 2 jobs, if they get rejected for one, but there's interest for the second one. Will you see that history on the candidate lead somehow?
You would, for the simple reason, and I'll use a sales metaphor, is a candidate is an individual, let's just say a lead. The jobs that they're applying for are like opportunities. So if you think about it from a sales metaphor, Jason, who works for Power Objects, may be bidding, or we may have 2 open opportunities for him. In the HR world, the same thing. A candidate may apply for multiple jobs, and each of those jobs will have a distinct job path that they're looking at. So if I look at Jason, I would see the multiple jobs that Jason is applying to and where is he on those 2 separate tracks.
Okay, why don't I make a last call for questions here? It appears we have made our way through all of them, and thanks everyone for those great questions, really covering all aspects of what was presented here today. We do also have a survey that'll pop up as we close out today. We really appreciate any feedback you can provide on your experience and what you learned. I know our speakers always appreciate that too. It only takes 15, 20 seconds. And well, I'm not seeing anything else, so we'll begin wrapping up here. We did record today's event, and we'll be sharing details on that with all of you soon as well. And let me just say thank you to you, Jason, and you, Bill, for taking the time today.
Great, absolutely. And if we can answer any questions, happy to do that.
All right. Well, we will end it there, everybody. Thanks for your time and attention, and have a great day.